combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. If you're brand new to Jimmy Rants, check it out at JimmyRants.com. And you'll see that we start off over on Instagram. We do an Instagram Live a couple of times a day. So go follow me on Instagram. I'm LIVINLOWCARBMAN. And you can follow me live on Instagram, just like all these amazing people are doing right now coming in. If you missed the live, you can watch the replay for up to 24 hours on Instagram. So go watch the replay if you're not the live type. You know who you are. So then we also pop it over onto YouTube, so you can watch all the past episodes. Type in Jimmy Rants as a keyword search on YouTube. You can find the past episodes. And then finally, the best of the best moments of these Jimmy Rants shows up on the Jimmy Rants podcast over on Apple Podcasts. Go leave me a review there as well. JimmyRants.com is the website. Today's Jimmy Rants is all about the basics of keto. And we're going to have a little Q&A session here all about the basics of keto. When I'm recording this, it is January the 1st. And so everybody who made a New Year's resolution to get healthy, lose weight, whatever it is, they got questions. They need to know more about this keto thing. I highly, highly recommend that if you haven't already educated yourself about keto, to get some kind of a book on it to help explain what the basics are. I wrote a book called Keto Clarity. If you've never learned about keto before and you want to learn the basics of what a ketogenic diet is, why it helps you in your health, some of the roadblocks you might run into, just practical information to help you get through keto, go read Keto Clarity. But today I'm going to answer your questions all about the basics of keto. And I actually put it out there on my Instagram stories a few hours ago for people to submit their questions. So I'm going to go to those questions first, and then I'm going to ask you guys to share your questions that you have about keto and the basics of keto. Here's one that says, what is the best keto tracking app? Can I tell you, I'm not a fan of these apps that track your keto, because a lot of the apps that are out there, they track your keto based on macronutrient ratios. So those of you that follow my work, you know I'm not a fan of macronutrient ratios, because if you're trying to hit some arbitrary number in your fat, for example, let's say you set your fat total to 75% of your calories, okay? And so if you're at 67% towards the end of the day, according to your macros and according to these tracking apps, you got to eat just plain butter or some sort of fat to get your macros up. I'm not a fan of that. I think that's silly. So I'm not a fan of the keto tracking apps that are out there because of that. Now, there are great ones. Carb Manager, I think, is one that's pretty decent. And of course, Fit Day has been out there for many years as one that generally tracks everything. There is this really great one if you want to know your like micronutrition that you're getting along with the macronutrients. There is this one called Chronometer. So it's spelled just like chronometer. And you can actually pump in your food and it will show you all your micronutrients along with the macronutrients. I'm a bigger fan of following all of that than I am just a basic tracking of your macros. So if you want to track your keto, use that Chronometer. Yeah, that's the one that I would highly, highly recommend. All right, let's see what else we got as far as questions. If you're just joining us, we are talking all about the basics of keto, because a lot of people are brand new to this today. And a lot of you watching this today, you're seasoned veterans. But what are those questions that you're hearing that are the basic questions that you're hearing from people that you need help answering? So I am going to go to this one next. Do calories matter? This is a trick question because, of course, calories count. But then the question becomes, do you have to count them on a ketogenic diet? So, do they count? Yes, they do count. But here's the thing. When you are listening to your body, when you're keeping your carbs low, moderating your protein, eating enough healthy fats, calories are an afterthought. You don't even look at food as calories anymore. And I hope that's you. I hope that you see calorie counts on foods and just say, what an irrelevant number that is to my health goals. I hope you look at food and you see, what is the hormonal impact? What is the insulin effect? How is this going to either promote health or take away health from me? That's how I want you to look at food, not in terms of calories. Because everybody wants to look at calories. Everybody talks about calories. Okay? So you don't have to count them. It doesn't mean they completely don't matter, but it means within the context of what you're doing on your ketogenic plan, they're very highly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. All right, let's see what else we have. I've been keto for 19 months and I'm hungry every night. Should I up my calories? Well, if you're hungry, that's your body telling you to eat. So if you're hungry specifically at night, it sounds like you're either eating too early, you're not eating enough in your evening meal, because if you're hungry at night, that last meal of the day, you must not have ate very much food and or not enough fat. So I don't understand why people get hungry on keto, because if you're fueling your body properly with the right amount of fat, and there's definitely no downside to whatever you think is enough fat and then a little more. Sometimes people fear that because of all the negativity they've heard about fat for our entire lives. Most of us have grown up in the low-fat era. And so our default is, oh, well, I don't want to go too high on the fat because we know that's going to be bad. And so even on a subconscious level, maybe you're telling yourself that. So if you're hungry at night, yeah, not just up your calories, up your fat calories, because that is going to help you more than anything. All right, I think I have one more question that came in, and then we'll get to you guys' question. I spent the holidays in Denver, Colorado. Any studies or information about marijuana and ketones, pro or con? Honestly, I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it. I do know about the endocannabinoid system in the body, and this is why CBD oil, cannabidiol oil, which is the non-hallucinogenic part of marijuana, is so powerful when it comes to your health and some of the improvements that it shows in pain management, apart from the hallucinogenic effects of marijuana. But to answer your question, no, I haven't seen anything on that yet. And it will be interesting, especially all these states that have legalized marijuana, people that eat keto. Maybe you eat keto and you're smoking the weed and it's all good, you know, and that's what you're doing and it's your jam. I'd love to see a test of that. You would think a test of ketone levels of people that do that versus people that don't. It would be interesting. I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's see what you guys have to say with your questions. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm going to scroll back to the top. And we are just going to go right down the list here, you guys, of all your questions. Thanks for being here. Joshua wants to know, what is the best thing to eat the day that you break a long-term fast? Best thing to eat? Food. Very best thing to eat. Real whole foods. That's it. I guess you want specific foods. Just kidding with you, Joshua. So, what we say in my book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. So if you're interested in fasting, go get that book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. And by the way, I noticed it popped into the top 50 in all books on Amazon just yesterday. So people are interested in this subject of fasting. So go learn more about it in that book. But what we say in there is, but when you're ready to break your fast, let's say you fasted for anywhere from like 3 to 7 days, for example. So that's a long-term fast. When you're ready to break the fast, about an hour before you have your meal, have a little something. So have some macadamia nuts, have a very small salad, just something to get something on the stomach. And what that does is it pumps blood back into the stomach again so that the blood starts flowing, so that when you do introduce food, you don't get this thing called refeeding syndrome. That's something you don't want. So if you eat too much food too fast after not having food for a period of time of 3 to 7-ish days, you could actually run into some problems. But it's only a problem if you don't stoke the flame first, which is why we say about 45 to 60 minutes before your main meal, go ahead and have a little something, something, as I like to say, in the stomach. I like peely nuts when I'm breaking a fast, so I'll eat those. Macadamia nuts work. A small salad will work. Anything that will bring blood back to the stomach again. But I will tell you this, whatever meal you do decide to choose, don't think you're going to have a regular meal. You think you haven't eaten for 3 to 7 days, and I've done 3 21-day fasts, and I can tell you, you're not ravenously hungry. You can't eat as much as you think you will. And what will end up happening is whatever your normal consumption of food is, you'll eat somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of what you would normally eat. So don't let your eyes get bigger than your stomach just because you hadn't had food in a few days. You need to really let your body get used to eating again. And within a few days, you're back to eating normal sized foods and meals. But don't let that freak you out in the early days. But pretty much choose your food. Whatever you want to eat within the keto template is definitely preferred, obviously. Thanks for being here, guys. I'm looking at questions for basics of keto is what we're talking about here. Steph Lynn, 1977, wants to know if you have mild arteriosclerosis, can you do keto? So, for those of you that don't know, arteriosclerosis is basically heart disease. And you've got like blocked arteries and things like that. Keto is the answer to a lot of those issues, because a lot of those blocked arteries, a lot of that development of atherosclerosis that's happening is a direct result of the carbohydrates that you've consumed in your diet. And so your body has become inflamed because of those carbs. Also, vegetable oils have contributed to that. And so if you've eaten a lot of carbs, you've eaten a lot of vegetable oils, which is basically in the standard American diet in gobs, both of those substances are, then the answer is to not eat those things. Well, guess what? When you cut out culprit carbohydrates, when you cut out vegetable oils, and you choose real whole foods that nourish your body, guess what you're eating? You're eating keto. So yes, I do think keto can be an effective measure. My last book, 2 books ago, was called The Keto Cure, and I co-authored that with Dr. Adam Nally, and he and I made the case in there that people that have atherosclerosis of any level actually will find benefit if they go keto. All right, let's see here. Welcome in, welcome in. We are talking about the basics of keto and getting your questions. Kathleen has the next one. What are you doing to help sleep in support of good health? What are you doing to help sleep in support of good health? So I guess you're asking, what are some of the sleep modalities and sleep hacks that you're doing to then by extension give you health? It's a little bit hard to understand what you're asking there, but I'm going to assume you mean what sleep techniques and hacks can you do to help you sleep better so that you improve your health? A dark room is a must. If you have even, you ever have one of those little things that you put on a charger, so like my Apple Watch or something, or even like an alarm clock that would be lit up, you got to hide even all of those little bits of light, because that light will disrupt your sleep. And so that's one thing. Make it a very, very dark room. Also make it a cool room, because at night your body needs to be cooler in order to get restful sleep. So if you sleep hot, you got to throw the covers off. You got to turn the air conditioner down. You got to do something to get cooler. You also want to shut down the lights in your house at night. I'll do this. It freaks Christine out because she's like, I can't see. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to mess with my melatonin production, because if you start turning down the lights at night and you allow your body to naturally start developing melatonin on its own, then you will actually get better sleep. And during the daytime, especially earlier in the day, make sure that you're getting ample amounts of light in the daytime. So there's a lot of people, they sit like in a dark room in the middle of the day, and then they wonder why they can't sleep at night. You have to turn on your circadian rhythm and get that circadian rhythm on. Mine is on strong. When I wake up in the morning, I'm bright and I'm turning on lights everywhere. And then when the sun comes up, I'm going outside and letting my eyeballs get at least an obligate amount of light. You're not looking directly at the sun, but you're out in it and you're getting that sunlight right into the pupil. And then later in the day, so right now it's 4:15 p.m., in about an hour, it's going to start to get dark. That's when I turn down the mode on my iPhone to the dimmest possible setting. I also start turning off all the lights in the house into very dim and start to wind down. And I think it's not emphasized enough, those kinds of things, especially in our technological day and age. The last thing that I do, and it's a don't do, is don't get caught up in any kind of emotional conversation or reading something. This is why scary movies keep people awake. They've gotten hyped up because your body is still in that fight or flight mode. And so you gotta chill out at night. And I deliberately, I don't do anything after about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I just kind of rest, relax, and get ready for sleep. So that is all the things you can do to help sleep. Got a little tickle in my throat. Healthy Utah Keto has the next question. Do you need to track calories to lose weight while eating keto? I'm getting hot in here, so I'm going to open my door. Speaking of hot, do you need to track calories to lose weight while eating keto? We addressed that a little bit earlier. No, calories are not necessary to track. Calories really are the least relevant part of your nutrition. I would say the most relevant is making sure that you're getting the carb level that's right for you. For most people trying to be keto, that's under 50. For a lot of people, that's well under 30. I tend to stay right around 25 to 30-ish on most days, total carbs. Sue Davis, angioplasty's done, pretty good, except one artery 40% blocked. Follow-up appointment on Thursday. I'm afraid doctor will put me on statins. What do I tell him? So, once you have heart disease, once you have some kind of a cardiovascular event, which you say 40% blockage, but I don't see anything about your cholesterol levels. I don't see anything about your, if you've had a CT heart scan that shows a heart calcium score. CIMT is the carotid intima that you can have run to do an ultrasound to see if there's any actual signs of disease taking place there. An NMR lipoprofile test, which is an advanced lipid panel, which shows you how you're doing in your particle size and particle number. These are all things that I wrote about in my book, Cholesterol Clarity. If you want to go pick up a copy, it will answer a lot of your questions all about this. But I don't have enough information, Sue, based on what you've given me here. Danielle J75, is there a keto sweetener that you suggest? I've now heard that none of them are good. Well, if you can eat none of them, that's the preferred. But I do tend to stick with the erythritol and stevia blends. That tends to be my go-to if I'm going to use sweeteners. With erythritol, there's this company I love called Swerve. So go get some Swerve if you want to bake. If it's something that I'm putting in like coffee or tea, I'm not putting in coffee, but those of you that like coffee, tea, or some other beverage, use liquid form of stevia. Don't ever use the packets, because the packets, they use bulking agents that are basically sugar. So that's the lowdown. In my book, The Keto Cure, we have a whole chapter in there all about the truth about sweeteners. You can see why we don't like aspartame, which I call nasty tame. Splenda is no bueno. Ace K is a huge one. Acesulfame potassium. They put it in like all the soft drinks that are really sweet these days, the sugar-free soft drinks, and it's not good for your insulin levels. So go check out that chapter in The Keto Cure. How do I push through the hunger when I'm attempting intermittent fasting? Sharon Lee. So don't. If you're intermittent fasting, then I would say get keto dialed in a lot more, because with keto, if you're feeling hunger in between meals on keto, you probably ate too many carbs, which is probably not the case for you, Sharon, or you didn't eat enough fat. And I'd say bump up the fat in your previous meal before you start intermittent fasting, and you'll find the intermittent fast is so much better. It may take a little bit to kind of get keto adapted. Definitely test your blood ketones. Make sure you're getting therapeutic levels of ketones. If you're not, then you got to get the ketones up by eating more fat and eating less carbs. Now, that said, if you want to intermittent fast and do it very easily and have a really solid intermittent fasting period, eat your last meal of the day at 6 o'clock at night, okay? Then you wake up the next morning, you're not hungry, so push through whatever the breakfast time would have been, then go all the way to noon. When you go from 6 o'clock the night before to noon the next day, you just intermittent fasted for 18 hours. So then you've got noon to 6 to get in a couple of meals. Pretty easy, right? Now, if you can't make it from 6 o'clock the night before to noon the next day, then make that your goal. Make that your goal. And if you have to go from 6 o'clock the night before to like 8 a.m., guess what? That's still a 14-hour fast. So don't make this harder than it needs to be. I think sometimes we fall into dieting mentality and we allow ourselves to fall into, oh, well, I don't want to eat too much. No, you've got to fuel your body so that when you fast, you're fasting. And when you feast, you're feasting. Don't skimp on the calories or your body's going to rebel. My husband says to me, how can fruit be bad for you? Says Laurie Smith, Eden. Thank you, Laurie. Fruit in and of itself is not bad for you. Okay, let's get that straight. Fruit is just a food. Fruit itself is not the problem. It's what happens when it goes in the body. And people say, well, fruit is natural sugar, so it doesn't respond the same way. Oh, yeah? Tell your metabolism that fruit is not real sugar. That the sugar in fruit doesn't count because it's real, whole food. It is, but it's still sugar. And so sugar is sugar is sugar. Your body don't care if it came from a candy bar or if it came from a banana. Okay? So yes, you get some micronutrition when it comes to fruit that the candy bar isn't giving you. But at the end of the day, you have to look at foods and how they react in your body. And when you eat something like a banana, which has 29 grams of sugar in one banana, 29 grams of sugar, divide that by 4, and that's over 7 teaspoons of sugar in one banana. Your body only has 1 teaspoon of sugar in your entire bloodstream. Okay? So if we're talking about fruit being healthy, if your body can handle metabolizing all of that sugar, which most people cannot because they have some level of insulin resistance, then it's no bueno for you. It's why on keto, you cut those things out. Now, if you have improved insulin sensitivity and you're able to handle fruit, maybe it's a young child who hasn't messed up their system yet, sure, real whole bananas, oranges, apples, those kinds of things are just fine. Even people with insulin resistance can have fruit, but it's in the form of berries, which are the lower sugar fruits, things like blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. Those are the things that you can have. So fruit isn't in and of itself bad unless your metabolism responds in such a way that it recognizes the sugar as a bad thing. So hopefully that helps you out, Laurie. Lilla Grand, is carnivore the future of keto? I'm reading a lot about keto people going carnivore. So carnivore is an all-meat diet, basically, for those of you that aren't familiar. Some people also use animal-based foods with the meat, things like butter, cheese, things that come from an animal. I don't know if it's necessarily the next incarnation of keto. It's certainly a subset of keto, and I know my friend Dr. Sean Baker has really been out there pushing it hard. I actually helped him get a book contract with my publisher, so he's going to come out with a carnivore diet book later this year that you definitely want to check out. But yeah, I see carnivore as a great subset. I see it more as a hack for people who want to try it for a period of time. I'm actually starting carnivore tomorrow for the whole month, pretty much most of the month of January. I want to see how various blood markers change. We're going to be detailing this on my Friday podcast called the Keto Hacking MD podcast in a few weeks. So you'll be able to see some of the results of how that's gone. But yeah, carnivore is a great way to carbohydrate restrict because you're not eating carbs at all, and you're eating satiating, real whole animal-based foods. Alberto says, I read that fats are also used by the body to store toxins like heavy metals. That can be a reason why people get the keto flu, too many metals in the blood. Well, I don't know about the keto flu. I do know that this is what makes it very difficult to mobilize stored body fat for a lot of people, because people don't realize your body is constantly trying to protect you from foreign invaders. And if heavy metals get into your body, and I've talked about this before with my underarm deodorant, most traditional antiperspirant deodorants have aluminum in them. And so if you're putting them in your underarm, your body's absorbing that aluminum, you could be getting heavy metal toxicity into your body. It did for me. I had to give that up, and that was many, many years ago now. But it can cause problems. Well, I wonder how much of that aluminum is still stored up in the fat stores in my belly, and my body's just refusing to let go because it knows if it lets go, it's going to expose my body to those toxins. So keep that in mind. If you have stored body fat that's being stubborn, it could be your body's way of protecting you from harm. R. Wimple says, I've been doing keto for almost 5 months now, and one thing that I've cut out is kombucha. I used to drink 1 cup a day. I miss it. Is it okay with small amounts of sugar? So kombucha is a love-hate relationship because there are good benefits to drinking kombucha. Kombucha, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is a fermented tea. So it's a tea that has gone through the fermentation process that would give you good, healthy gut bugs. Okay, so in my book, Real Food Keto, my latest book, we have a kombucha recipe that is low in sugar. Our friend Maria Emmerich helped develop that one for us. Christine and I, my wife Christine and I wrote Real Food Keto with Maria doing the recipes. And we told Maria, we need a kombucha in there, and we need it as low a sugar as possible. So go get Real Food Keto, and we show you how to get a low sugar version of it. Welcome in, welcome in. Danielle, what keto-friendly sweetener? Yeah, I just answered that a while ago. Beth, keto neogenesis, grounding is great too for those in permissible weather. Take a barefoot walk on earth for better sleep. Yes. So part of being outside and getting sun in the eyes is also grounding. So thank you for reminding me of that. Appreciate that. Thank you guys for being here. We're answering general basics of keto questions. A little Q&A session here on Jimmy Rants today. XOAAW, I'm new to keto, doing great so far. Just finished reading Keto Clarity today. I'm finding myself full throughout the day and not meeting my calories. Should I worry about being below calories if I'm satisfied? It's so interesting that you asked this question because I recorded our very first episode of Keto Talk coming back next Thursday. We recorded that today, and one of the questions from a lady was, I eat to satiety and I'm only having about 700 to 1,000 calories in a day. And so she gets great ketones. Well, yeah, you're going to get great ketones, but you're in a hypocaloric state. So XOAAW, I would encourage you, don't force food. Don't force the food, but try adding in maybe a tablespoon or 2 more fat into the diet. Sometimes that bumps you up right into the right calorie range without messing with your satiety, without having any issues whatsoever. When in doubt, you can always add a little more fat, and there's not going to be any problem with that. So hopefully that helps you out. I definitely want to hear how you're doing, and if I can help you in any way, let me know. Keto Couple Bandit says, do you think carnivore is good for someone who is type 2 diabetic? Well, a type 2 diabetic, their primary issue is they have an aversion to carbohydrate. And so if you're eating carnivore, you're not eating carbohydrate anymore. So I think carnivore could be a really good way for a type 2 diabetic to eat, because it forces them not to eat the very thing that's making their disease worse. So big fan of it being a hack to get them into keto, because I think once they start feeling better and maybe come off of medications, if they're taking insulin, exogenous insulin, then perhaps it would allow them to come off of that or greatly reduce it. All of those things are good things that carnivore can help bring about. But I think a generalized ketogenic diet, well-formulated, low-carb, moderate protein, high-fat ketogenic diet with mostly real whole foods is going to benefit them as well. Kitty Caddick, hello. Some people have a reaction to nuts in the form of an allergy. No health benefits for them from any nuts. For somebody, sugar is an enemy as a form of affecting blood sugar and insulin. That's how I explain why apples are not good for me. Ooh, I like that, Kat. Thanks for sharing that. Beth wants to know, is it the keto flu a combo of is the keto flu a combo of carb detox and electrolyte imbalance from increased urination in the beginning? Maybe. I know it's the body's direct reaction to when you go keto, you dump the excess glycogen stores in your muscles. Well, in the glycogen, you have lots and lots and lots of water. You also have a lot of sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. All of these things get dumped. I never thought about the carb detox portion of it, but that probably does contribute as well. So it's a lot of different things. It's one reason when you start keto, this is a great basics of keto question. So thank you, Beth. When you first start keto, you have to replenish the water that you've lost because your body's dumping it. That's where the sugar is stored as well that your body's trying to get rid of. So replenish the water, replenish the salt and the magnesium and the potassium. There's a great company called Keto Vitals that has an electrolyte supplementation that you can replenish all of that. So go check that out on Amazon or ketovitals.com. Really good stuff. But yeah, your theory is right. It is definitely a bit of the carb detox and a bit of the electrolyte imbalance. The keto flu, by the way, isn't a thing. I did a whole Jimmy Rants all about that. It's the electrolyte imbalance. Danielle J75, what's the best way to break a plateau? Well, first of all, you have to determine if you're in a plateau or not. People weigh themselves weekly and they say, oh, well, I haven't lost any weight this week, so therefore I'm on a plateau. A plateau is defined probably more definitively as having not lost any weight, having not lost any inches, having not really seen any improvements in health markers in 2 to 3 months. Okay? So let's stop with the dieting verbiage, which it's a pet peeve of mine, where we have all these kind of dieting things that we throw out there. Oh, I've hit a plateau. Well, when's the last time you weighed? Well, last week I was down 1 pound, but this week I didn't lose any weight, so I'm on a plateau. No, you are not. And I'm really sick of that verbiage kind of taking over. And that's what discourages people. And then that discouragement becomes stress, and then the stress becomes negative results in your weight, and you plateau some more. You see where I'm going here? So we feed into, in the dieting culture, we feed into the very thing that we're trying to avoid. So don't get caught up in all that. Life in Pix 50, what is the therapeutic ketone range? Is it different for everyone? Great question. When Dr. Jeff Follick and Dr. Steve Finney came out with their book, The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance, and they had this nice little chart in there about nutritional ketosis being between 0.5 and 3.0 blood ketones. That's what everybody went by. Even I did for a while as well. But having done this for a little while, I have found the sweet spot for most people to be in nutritional ketosis, if you're testing blood, is between 1.0 and 2.0 on the blood ketone meter. So the blood ketone meter that I use is Keto Mojo. So go get you one of those. Go look them up online. If you're under 1.0 but above 0.5, you're in a lower level of ketosis, so you're definitely getting benefits there. But when you start to get therapeutic benefits, it tends to start at 1.0. And when you go above 2.0, this isn't like my ketones are higher than yours. You know, I kind of loathe sometimes when I see people post online, well, I got 4.7 blood ketones. Well, okay, if you're early on in your journey, you're going to have higher levels of ketones like that. But when you've done this a little while, aiming for between 1 and 2, I think, is the optimal therapeutic range for trying to get into nutritional ketosis. Should you always be counting macros? Angela, no. No. I think the goal is to become intuitive in your eating. I think the goal is to make sure that what you're eating is foods that are nourishing your body. Does that mean macros don't count? Obviously not. You're trying to keep your carbs low. You're trying to moderate your protein. You're trying to eat more healthy fats to satiety. So therefore, you do need to track for a while and count for a period of time. But when you've done this a while, you know how to eat. You know how to restrict carbohydrates. You know what it looks like to eat healthy. So I think the goal is to become a lot more intuitive in your food choices. And when you stick with mostly real whole foods, that becomes very easy. Topper RR says, how about keto during vertigo with nausea? Well, if you got vertigo, just get through the vertigo. Christine had that. It was so funny. We went to visit Dr. Eric Westman in Durham. And that night that we got home from the visit, we went to the hotel room with the visit. She had vertigo. And she didn't know what was going on. The world was spinning, and she's like, Jimmy, I don't know what's going on. She was freaking out. So we called the ambulance, and they came and got her. And they never did figure out what was going on with that. But when you're in vertigo, just get over the vertigo first. Don't worry about keto. Thanks for ranting about plateaus. I hate that too. Can you address Setpoint? Is that a real thing? Grandma does keto says. So Setpoint is where your body likes to be at a certain weight. And just from my own anecdotal experience with Setpoint, I totally believe it. I think my body has been fighting tooth and nail to get back to 410 pounds. And it has been fighting me for the past 15 years. Today is 15 years ago. I started at 410 pounds 15 years ago today. And I think ever since I lost weight in 2004 on the Atkins diet, I think my body has been trying to get back to that 410 pound man ever since. Can you lower your set point? I think so. And I think I did. I think the weight that I'm at now is the set point that I was able to correct it from the 410. It's now at the set point that it likes now. So then my goal now is to try to lower it again so that my body can start to respond once again at this older age that I'm at now to be able to see results going forward. So that's what I'm going to work on here in 2019. But to answer your question, yes, I do think set point is a real thing. My cousin Robert Pardue is here. Hey, Robbie. How often do you check to see if you're in ketosis? So when you first start, I think it's a great idea to test first thing in the morning. So prick your finger before you have any food, before you have anything, test your ketones in the morning. Your morning ketones are going to tend to be the lowest of the entire day. So let's say it comes in at 0.8, okay? So that's the morning ketones. Then you want to test again 4 hours after your last meal of the day. And so that could be like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then that should be about double what that morning reading was. So if the morning was 0.8, your night reading should be about 1.6. Do that for a period of time, maybe every few days if you can't afford so many strips, but test, and test some more. And at some point, you'll recognize a pattern of how you feel and what your ketone levels are. And once you get that feeling down, then you don't have to test as often anymore. I don't test very often. I'll peek in every once in a while just to see I'm at 1.7 or I'm at 1.4. I'll even test my blood glucose the same way. I test glucose a little more often just because I'm trying to keep an eye on that, but hopefully that helps you out. Okay, so I don't count the macros as long as I'm mindful of my carbs. Angela, I think that's a great strategy. Keep the carbs low and be mindful also of protein to make sure that you're moderating down on that and that you're getting ample amounts of fat. Don't let in the back of your mind, fear of fats that we've had for our entire lives to impact you. I think at the end of the day, keeping the carbs low, moderating the protein, eating more fat, it should become intuitive over time. My weight isn't moving. Well, I could wax eloquently about weight. And there's so many X factors involved with weight that have nothing at all to do with your diet. I would say get your stress under control. I would say make sure that you're sleeping well. I would get some hormones checked, specifically your full thyroid panel, not just your TSH. There's so many things that can impact your weight that's apart from your diet. And we haven't even talked about movement and the impact that doing exercise and certain kinds of exercise can do when you're keto. Don't put it all on the diet, okay? A lot of people want to do that. Well, I'm not losing weight and I'm on keto. Well, what else is going on in your life? All of that matters as well. Low carb keto for life. I lost almost 200 pounds and then regained due to taking Cymbalta and then thyroid setback, but I've still kept 50 pounds off. Well, keep at it. I will encourage you to just never give up because you're too worth it. There's too much at stake here with your health. Sorry, somebody's talking out there. Close my door. But you should celebrate that you're still in the game. And you had to take Cymbalta for that period of time. And hopefully it helped resolve, or at least is resolving, some of the issues that you dealt with that made you take it. Hang in there is all I got to say. And definitely keep watching Jimmy Rants because we'll encourage you on a daily basis. Get your water in if you aren't seeing results. Thank you, Life in Pigs 50. Yes, always stay hydrated, get plenty of salt, all of the things that we talk about on a regular basis. Rescue Gal, I'm able to eat very cleanly, but I can't seem to give up Diet Coke. Any suggestions on how to kick the habit? I have about 10 cans a day. Yeah, it's a tough one for a lot of people. And remember, when I came to low carb the first time, I was drinking 16 cans of sugary Coca-Cola a day. So I was a sugar addict and a half because of those, the sugary swill that was Coca-Cola. And so when I transitioned over, I was drinking a lot of diet soda as well. And yeah, it's tough. It's really, really tough. That's where you start to look for alternatives. So do you like fizzy water? There's these little just fizzy, it's the fizziness of the water, but it's not sweetened with anything. And then there's these things called Bai drinks, B-A-I, that are pretty helpful as well. And then like soda water. Just slowly start to try to wean yourself off and add in some of these others. There's another thing called Hint, which is just water that has just a touch of some flavor in it as well. So try anything that will fill that need that you get from diet soda now, and try to replace it that way. I'm not losing any weight since August, but I've still gone from a size 12 to a size 8. Inches are better than pounds. Thank you, Linda, living keto. This is why I'm no fan of the scale. This is why I call the scale a lying liar that lies, because it's not telling you the whole truth. And kudos to you, going down 4 sizes, even though you haven't lost weight. This is why I'm not a fan of the scale. Angela asks, so what hormone testing should you ask to have done? Oh, that's a loaded question. There's so many things you can have run. I think most people would get benefit from a full thyroid panel. You definitely want to run your insulin, fasting insulin level, maybe run a leptin level as well. All of those things are pretty important in the grand scheme of your keto journey. Oh, thank you, Ashton. Ashton's reminding me about Pellegrino. That's what I was talking about when I was saying soda water, bubbly water. Pellegrino is one of those brands. All right, guys. So that is it for this epic marathon Basics of Keto Q&A session. Thank you for all your amazing questions. And definitely, if you're brand new to keto, don't stop asking these questions, because the answers are out there and there are people that want to help you get healthier. Stick around with Jimmy Rants. We try to do that on a daily basis for you and also encourage you along the way. That's it for this Jimmy Rants, you guys. JimmyRants.com is the website. If you want to engage in the content, definitely go follow me on Instagram. I'm Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. And you can engage live just like all these people did down here today. You can also watch it on replay for up to 24 hours on Instagram. So if you don't see it live, definitely catch the replay on Instagram up to 24 hours. Then it disappears. We pop it over onto YouTube. Look up Jimmy Rants as a keyword search on YouTube. You will find the show. And then finally, the best of the best moments of this here show are on Apple Podcasts, the Jimmy Rants podcast. Go leave us a review, you guys. That really helps us out. All of this is at JimmyRants.com. So until next time, we'll see you then.